Hola hermosos! Welcome back to Meso Influence, where truth seekers and light workers get inspired. As you know from my Instagram, I completed a 3-day awareness workshop at Hridaya Yoga in Mazunte, Mexico. A piece of my heart will always be there. We learned Vijnana Variva Tantra from Hridaya founder himself, Sahajananda. Hridaya essentially refers to the spiritual heart. Its methods and philosophy aim to create the proper conditions for the revelation of Atman, our infinite core of awareness, freedom, and love. After the retreat, I felt compelled to interview Sahajananda on his personal path and also the role of solitude in cultivating awareness. Thank you so much for being here, Sahajananda. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm a meditation practitioner. I would love to share the teachings of the heart, to speak and show the importance of love and compassion and kindness in the world. So this is the main aspiration, show that this is possible. I deeply feel and trust that loving each other and living from the purity of intention is totally possible. I also know that the world will be different if we will not be lived just by fears, personal emotions, but from that center in which all these personal emotions can be embraced. Hridaya Yoga is helping us to acknowledge these emotions, to even allow suppressed energies, emotions to appear, at the same time to learn how to deal with them. We focus very much on the heart, doing solitary retreats for 10 days or 17 days, or for being with ourselves. It can be so inspiring and helpful.
So why do you think solitude and being by yourself is that crucial to spiritual awakening or to better listen to your heart?
In general, speaking about this spiritual maturity, if we refer to different stages of life, we definitely can identify, and this is kind of recognized by any psychology, that there is a need to create a detachment from our childhood. Still, we understand that we are not just supposed to do the life what our parents would tell us. In the spiritual journey, there is a need to drop the conventional social life in which we live almost like robots or in a mechanical life, and this social life and these common values of the society maintain. Of course, it's very precious for a while, but then it can be so limiting. That's why a different step is needed. Exactly as we need to live a rental home environment, we need to live also bourgeois life or the values of society, the paradigms of this common mentality, and explore even deeper to realize in a more profound way what is the essence of being human. Solitude, not as a path in itself, like being a monk, but solitude as a way of clarifying your vision, a way of understanding what is important, what is precious, and what is not in your life, what is worth to be honored more and what is important. So in solitude, this becomes more clear. In solitude, we learn about being slowly free from this agitation of the mind. So peace of the mind comes. There is also a sense of intimacy with the depth of our being, with these deeper values, the spiritual heart, this calling of God, of this sacred intimacy, not in the framework of a religion, not necessarily, but this sense of sacredness as an essential human dimension. As we will speak about love or beauty, we can speak also about this self-awareness, this intimacy with ourselves. Solitude is different from aloneness. Aloneness is a feeling of being by yourself in a frustrating and contracting way, like feeling rejected or abandoned, while solitude is the joy of being with yourself, fulfillment of being with yourself, and realizing that this is totally possible. I remember Rainer Maria Rilke said, even regarding the couple, that in a couple, each should be the guardian of the other's solitude, which is so beautiful, because usually in a couple we tend to go into this grasping and fears, or what if he or she will abandon me if I let some space. But this space of solitude is so nourishing, because there you can find love.
Yeah, I personally find it very useful to be in solitude, to really contemplate self-inquiry, to ask myself, who am I, without using my thoughts and my rational minds. And the answer always comes as an echo of my heart. In everyday life, we always assume productivity is the pathway to success, when all we need to do is to go back to the center, to the heart. Can you tell us about your personal spiritual journey and how you arrived to where you are and living your soul purpose?
I started practicing yoga and meditation beginning of university during the communist times. Yoga was forbidden in Romania, but this made me appreciate much more and see any piece of information and everything as so precious. Of course, at that time I never thought about becoming a yoga teacher. I had to be even in jail for 2 months. It was just an enquete. The secret services wanted to suppress the yoga activity in Romania. Yoga can offer much more than this. When I discovered this sense of expansion in the cosmos and the vibration of the heart and the openness of the heart and the love and the joy, the genuine joy of the heart, many things transformed. Still, it was a long journey. After revolution was a lot of appreciation and search coming from people to yoga, and still I felt that this personal journey was not somehow was not complete. I started practicing different forms of meditation and some kind of paranormal experiences manifested, like astral projections, and at a certain point I was even giving workshops on initiatic techniques and parapsychology. I was teaching as a professor of a psychology university. At the age of 33 it was a kind of spiritual crisis, and I felt the need to change something in a radical way, and thus came the longing to retreats in solitude in mountains. And thus I started doing, I would do every year 30 days or 49 days. And then in one of these retreats, something really beautiful and transformative happened. Dropping of the mind, ecstatic, blissful consciousness that continued for many days, and no need for sleep and for eating. And that was, I would say, the shift. After that, it was very hard for me to teach any other aspect related to yoga apart from this self-revelation, coming back to who we are in an authentic way. But of course, in time, wisdom and integration came, and this is how Hridaya Yoga appeared.
And what would you say to those who are experiencing resistance in pursuit of their passion? What do you think kept your fire alive, facing opposition in Soviet Romania, when yoga is frowned upon, when you're put into jail for something you think is right for the world?
So keeping this purity of intention and honesty to yourself, being true with yourself, there was never a doubt regarding this trust in the heart, or this connection with my heart. For me, this fire of the heart was sometimes kept by having tapas. Later on, when the heart is deeply immersed in this truth, then this trust is this faith that moves mountains is happening. But my advice would be, whenever you feel an opposition, to learn to sublimate, to transform that sense of frustration, a deeper determination. Keeping that frustration is a way of self-sabotage. It shows that I don't trust in me, I don't trust in this power in my heart, in my being. It's like believing that I cannot. So this is what frustration brings. On the contrary, what I recommend is to sublimate it in a determination. I know that no matter what, things will go in the direction. Any opposition is just a way to reinforce and to help us remember that nothing can really stop us.
How do you distinguish the difference between going against the flow and what's natural while insisting on what's truth to you?
Here exactly this purity of intention is, I would say, the essential criteria. In spirituality there is a statement, it is the truth that reveals the truth, which may seem paradoxical, but it's not, because I may not know the ultimate truth, but I do know when I'm truthful with myself, when my intentions are authentic or not. That truthfulness of our being is the only power that can reveal a deeper truth.
I love your reference to not only Buddhism, Christianity, but also my favorite authors like Eckhart Tolle and Rumi. Where does Hridaya stand in the dynamic between science, religion, and other aspects? Because I know you have a holistic approach to the belief of God and of death as well.
Embracing the rational mind and the scientific way of seeing things, at the same time I deeply understand that there is a need to honor something which unfortunately is often ignored. So this intimacy with the beloved, that means this tremor of the heart, is what makes the difference. Many people in our times speak about atheism or declare themselves as agnostic. I would agree with this if this wouldn't be coming from reactive mode. Many of us just react because grandmother took us to the church and so on, and this is definitely not a logical, rational reason not to come closer to your heart. It's just a reactivity, and you cannot become agnostic just because you were wounded like this. I would totally honor an agnostic who would say, I was in the heart meditating for 10 years and I didn't feel any sense of sacredness. Then I would say yes, it's your experience, it's coming from a direct observation. I totally respect this. On the other hand, we had so many great scientists like Heisenberg or Einstein who were deeply religious.
I love that. I'm personally a scientist, and my soul influence is all about incorporating science and spirituality, because spirituality is the most practical, yes, abstract approach to life that a lot of people misunderstand. A lot of things actually make sense, especially with energy, how it cannot be destroyed or created. What's your stand on afterlife, for instance? Do you believe our soul exists after death?
I don't want to come with statements that challenge the beliefs of some people. In the meditation, you discover that you are not, or you are much more than just the body and mind, and then you realize that through the death of the physical body, still consciousness exists. I deeply trust this. I deeply know this. It's just an invitation.
I feel like we all have our personal truth, and there's no only one truth, because everything is from our own, how we perceive the world.
Yes and no. Indeed, we come with our personal perspectives, and yes, there is a relativity there, and also it is said, as many people, so many paths, because each of us has her or his own dynamic in all this journey. Nevertheless, we can speak about some main milestones on this journey, like a real transformation comes when you are able to calm your mind, to become a witness of your emotions, not to be lost in your emotions and so on. And there is just one truth, which is beyond languages or thoughts, is just this ineffable intimacy.
It's like back to oneness. We're all uniqueness in one oneness. Could you explain the difference between Hridaya Yoga and the traditional Vipassana 10-day silent retreat?
Well, there are indeed many differences. Of course, it's the same aspiration for solitude and meditating and calming the mind, but there are also differences coming from the whole vision. Hridaya Yoga is rooted in the traditional yogic Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, and also the tantric tradition, which means we are not denying energies, we are not denying emotions. We learn to embrace that. It's a joy in this embrace, and the joy of being, the joy of meditating is coming. It's not so much about technicality.
And for those who are unable to attend the retreats at one of your centers, how do they integrate their personal spiritual practice into everyday life?
I would strongly recommend to many people to come, because it is something that is happening by being present in such an environment. And if this is not happening still, just an honesty of being with yourself. In Hridaya, we essentially are a spiritual being. Then it's more about integrating the daily life into spirituality. That means allowing our life be charged and illuminated by this love and beauty of what we really are.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I feel like you need to probably get ready for your next silent retreat. And that's all for this week's episode. It was a spontaneous interview in a dormitory, all done in 20 minutes. Let me know who you would like me to interview next. And until next time, follow your art, create your path, and Meso influence.